Hello, this is Faisal. We are having some issues with the Microsoft Project Online reports. So from our project web app, if I go to the reports link on the left, then I click on the English folder. Here you can see we have 3 reports which come by default with the Project Online setup. And if I try to open any of these reports in the Excel web services, the first one, see it's not able to refresh or even show any data. If I try the second one, it's able to open the report fine. It shows the pivot table fields on the left, and some of the fields are selected, but it doesn't show any data here, as you can see. So even if I go to the data and do a refresh all connections, so you can see it's going through the refreshing data, and then it throws this error at the, on the screen, which is the data refresh failed. If I click on the technical details, you can see there are a little more details within this section, and here you can see the PII project visibility mode column doesn't exist in the row set. So there are a couple of row sets or the columns which don't exist. So another one here, it's pretty much yeah, same one. And then there is a link. If I click on it, it brings this legacy help, which doesn't have any specifics about what this error is about or how to go beyond it. If I close this one, if I try the third one, the same issue happens with this one as well. So if I do the refresh all connections, you can see it's refreshing the data, and then after a few seconds it displays the similar error message. Again, for this one, if I click on show technical details, so see resource email address column doesn't exist. Okay, so seems like we don't have that data. So if I close this one, so I have downloaded these reports locally, and I've tried it. Let me do this on the screen here. So I'm going to launch Microsoft Excel here, and I have Office 2019 edition of the Excel. So if I try to open up the project overview Excel file here, so you can see I can open it up, and if I click on enable content, and if I select this line 39, then I can see the data. Then I can see the pivot table on the right hand side, but again there are fields which are selected but no data is showing up here. So if I review the connection properties, if I go to the data and click on query and connections, let me close this pivot table field here. So if I expand the connections here, nothing in the queries, but in the connections there are 5 connections. If I just pick the OData project data and right click and choose properties or double click on it, it brings this connection properties page. So all these are default. So if I go to the definition, so here these are the settings. So you can see it is using a connection file, which is the ODC data connection file, but then it also has a connection string. So if I copy this connection string and open up in a notepad, so you can see there are 2 places where it has the URL. One is the data source and the other one is the base URL. And here at the end of it, you can see then names to include, and there are some parameters which are defined here. So this one is of course the default file, and it's not working. Also notice the command text shows the project here. Authentication settings, again, those are all default. And these data connection files are in project web app. So if I go to this site and go to the project web app site, and then I click on site content, then there is a PWA data connection library. If I click on English, then these are the standard data connections. So those default reports are pointing to these ODC connection files. So again, back to our Excel file. So I'm going to close this one, and again from the desktop, even if I try to refresh it, it's not going to work, and it throws this error message, which is we could not refresh the connection or data assignment data. Here is the error message we got, and then it says the underlying connection was closed, and the second one says unable to read data from the transport connection. Again, it happens for all these data connections. So if I close it, the next one I'm going to show here is some of the custom reports we created, and we tested it from the desktop as well as from the ProjectOnline. So there are different versions of it. So like as an example, we used one of the report pack file, and if I click on it within the project web app, so you can see I can see the data here, and if I do the data connect, go to the data tab and click on refresh all connections, so you can see it's trying to refresh the data, and it does pull the data if there is any data change. So that means the refresh option is working. The only caveat is if I download this file locally on the computer, and if I try to open this one up from the desktop, then it doesn't show, it doesn't refreshes the data. So here I have opened it up. If I do the enable editing, and I will click on enable content. If I go to the data menu and click on queries and connections, so you can see this one has a few data connections as well. So if I choose one of the example for project data and choose properties, so you can see it's these are the default setting. If I go to the definition tab, so this one is not using any ODC connection files, but it does have the connection string. So if I copy this one and I'm going to put it in the notepad, so here you can see it is again sort of similar, but it has some different options here. So one thing here, it is using a filter which is filtering out the project type 7s, and then it has a select statement to select certain fields. So I think this is not critical, but the important difference here comes after these commas. So if I look into this one, namespaces to include is asterisk, which I believe is all. Then there is a maximum received message size defined. There is an integrated security SSPI. Keep alive is equal to true. Persist security info is fall. And then there is a base URL. Base URL, including the filter, matches with the one from the data source. But I think it's these parameters which are different compared to the default files, which is making it work in the ProjectOnline. But then this we are going to see here also in the command text. See, there is a parenthesis within the or after the project in the command text. There's no other unnecessary setting here. So if I try to refresh this one, so you can see it throws this error as well. So this is what I have in the file names for these 4 custom files. Yes, ProjectOnline means it works with the data refresh works in the ProjectOnline. No, MS Excel means within desktop Microsoft Excel, and I have 2019 edition, it doesn't work. So again, this is the error. So if I close this one, I'm going to launch another one. So here is another one. This one was created in Microsoft Excel 2016 on a different computer. And again, this is a little different data format. So if I try to refresh it, I can refresh the data, and it does pull. If I create a new test project, it does show up new projects here as well. So if I close this one, again, this one doesn't work on the desktop. And here is the one which we created on the desktop. This one was created on this Windows 10 desktop with the Office Excel version 2019. So you can see this one has no Project Online, means we cannot refresh it in the Project Online, but yes, in Microsoft Excel means we can refresh it in the desktop version. So if I try to do the data, refresh all connections, so you can see it throws a different error here, which is unsupported data source. This workbook contains Power Query queries that cannot be refreshed in Excel for the web. And there is a link here, which again seems like a little bit of legacy format. So it's not specific as well. So I have downloaded this report. So if I try to pull this one up from the local computer, so let me open this one up. And I'm going to enable editing and enable content. And then if I go to the data, and if I try to do refresh all, so you can see it does work, and it refreshes the data, and it does pull the latest data from Project Online. And if I look into the queries, so this is the one I created with the Microsoft engineer, the level 1 support engineer, and we created as a new file, and we went into data, get data, and we use this from data feed, and that's where we specified the URL of the project web app, and we added underscore API and underscore project data, and which results in displaying a dialog box which shows all the tables, and we picked up the project and resources table. So here again, if I go into the project properties, so you can see these are the settings. It has the enable background refresh option, but if I go to the definition, so you can see it has a different connection string, it has a different command and command text. Nothing in the unusual in other areas, but if I click on the edit query, so it takes us to the Power Query Builder, and that's where it has the connection. So if I click on data sources here, so this is the one you can see is defined here. So we can change the data source, but again, this is the default way of creating new report from the desktop, and there was an article which was sent in the ticket as well, which I knew about before, but it doesn't help in the data refresh. So I'm going to close this one. And the last version is right here, which doesn't refresh in Project Online, but it does in the desktop version. So again, if I do a data refresh here, so this one displays a the pivot table error could not be refreshed because the data source cannot be accessed. So that seems like was on the desktop and not carried over to the web. So if I open the desktop version of the file, and if I enable the editing, and if I click on enable content, and I'm going to click on data and choose refresh all, and see it displays this message: reference isn't valid. And that's where it doesn't go beyond it. So if I click on queries and connections, so here is our project query. There isn't a connection here, so if I go to the properties definition tab, again this one has the different format of the connection string. So this is what we are trying to resolve. Basically, the short summary is we want to make sure that we can create reports using Microsoft Excel from the desktop and upload those reports in the project web app or PWA report section, and we should have the option to refresh those reports to pull the latest data without doing any actions where we have to, or the users have to manually download the file on the desktop, refresh it, and then upload it. So that's this ticket about, and just hoping that if we can get some answers about why these reports are not working. The important thing like I said, found is that the data connection strings are different between the working versions and the non-working versions, and also these default files have a different format of the connection string, but they are also using the ODC connection file. Thank you very much.